It's been a while since we've had the director of Enemies Within the Church on the podcast, so this week we're going to bring Judd on. Let's get into things. Welcome to the Enemies Within the Church podcast. You can go to, we're going to talk about websites here in a second, so I'm going to hold off on that portion. You can also, if you want to see the podcast continue, you can go to the Patreon linked in the description. As I've been mentioning, that is not for the entire Enemies Within the Church project. That is for the podcast in particular, and thus is going to me so that I can dedicate the time to the podcast, as Enemies Within the Church is trying to put its focus on some exciting new projects that are going to be coming down the pipe relatively soon. We might talk about that a little bit, but we don't want to get too far into things. We are going to announce some things, as I said, with the website, but we need to talk about the man that we have on the podcast this week. It's Judd Saul. If you don't know, Judd Saul is the director of Enemies Within the Church, the film. You're the head of Enemies Within the Church as well. And if that's not enough, so he's not just fighting woke nonsense over here in the United States. He's going over to where Christians are being persecuted, and he's taking care of those. He's taking care of our brothers and sisters who are being slaughtered in the worst sort of ways for their faith. That's the kind of man you got with us. So, when he starts talking about things, I think you should listen, because he's bringing both truth and action. So, Judd, how are you doing today? And, obviously we've talked. We're part of the same organization, so we know why we're doing this episode. But just let people know why you wanted to come on specifically right now.
Well, there's a few reasons why I wanted to come on. First and foremost, the most important thing is I wanted to let everybody know that we're doing an overhaul of our website. We're doing an overhaul of the movie website itself. We're integrating everything into one place. So everything is going to be rerouted to EWTCnews.com, where you can then get access to the movie to watch. You can get access to all of our wonderful articles and content, and the podcast, and then also our store. And we are going to be putting some more resources and more time into developing more content to keep up with the insanity that is happening within our churches, parachurch organizations, and our seminaries. And so I just want everybody to know, everyone's confused. Well, I'm going here, I can't find this. I'm going here, I can't find this. Everything's going to be moved into one place. And just to update our listeners and the fans of the movie, so our back end of our system, we were using a Microsoft, it was called Azure, Azure product, to stream our film through our website. Well, Microsoft up and decided we're just going to terminate the service. So on the back end, we've been having to redo the entire back end of the movie streaming portion of our site, because Microsoft just canceled their service.
Yep.
And so we've been running and searching, trying to find a solution for it. So right now it is just a link to a pay-per-view Vimeo as we rebuild and restructure the back end of our site. And then everything should be back to normal here within about a month, as far as people who have paid for the online streaming version of the site. This was something that we hadn't anticipated when Microsoft just shuts down the service.
Yeah, that is one of the frustrations when you're using services from these big companies. They can, you don't own anything nowadays. You don't own anything. You pay for a service, and the company retains ownership. The company retains the right to decide if you get the product or not, which is a whole bigger,
it's been frustrating for us, because it's taken a lot of money, time, and resources to then have to redo everything.
Yes.
And reconfigure this. So that's why we're doing the overhaul. We're going to put it all in the one place. But people that have been visiting the movie website have not been going to EWTC News website to check on
Yeah.
all the rich content, spending a lot of time and effort in research and doing profiles on certain people, bringing you news on things that are infiltrating our seminaries and churches. Kyle, we've just done a huge, amazingly well thought out research series on a guy by the name of Preston Sprinkle. I just refer to him as Mr. Gay Christianity. That so many of our conservative seminaries, churches, and parachurch organizations have let this guy come in and teach their kids and teach their people on biblical sexuality, where this guy is actually direct opposite, but he comes in like a wolf in sheep's clothing, and we are still here to out these people. So EWTC News is a resource that every Christian worth their salt should be looking up and reading. So that's why we're putting everything back into one place. And Kyle, you do a fantastic job at doing what you're doing, researching this more than any person on planet Earth, digging into these guys and doing these profiles. And I just want to tell folks that you need to be praying for people like Kyle and praying for him, especially because this guy has to get his mind into the dirt and put himself through mental anguish to figure out who these people are all about. I mean, it's taken, you have to go to a dark place to see where these people are coming from and who they are and what their agenda is. And so just kudos to you, Kyle. I mean, I did it for over 3.5 years, making enemies within the church. In the film, deep diving into all this stuff, it drained me, physically, emotionally, and mentally. Knowing that.
Well, when you said, hey, Kyle, I want to come on the podcast this week, I was just like, oh, thank goodness, that gives me a week break. Especially after last week's episode on Preston Sprinkle's view of hell. Go watch that. My goodness, that was a marathon getting that done. So getting a week to have a break was...
Yeah, but people like Kyle are doing the dirty work, the hard work for you, so you don't have to go read and spend hours and hours and hours submerging yourself into this garbage to find out what this is about. That's why Kyle needs your support in Patreon, so we can continue doing these things and taking a emotional, physical, and mental beating along the way. So please, folks, please support Kyle. Please support this project. No one is doing what we are doing. No one is doing what Kyle is doing.
And I want to ask a question of clarification on that. Because you say no one's doing that. I can guarantee a lot of people listening went, hey, but what about X person, Y person, Z person? They're doing the same kind of thing. What is the differentiator between enemies within the church, how we do things, and others? You know, what sets us apart? Why would you say it the way you did?
We're diving deeper than what most people do, and we're going into places that most people are not. So when I say no one's doing what we're doing, no one is doing what we're doing to the extent and how far we're going into it.
Yeah, the differentiator for, you know, as I see it with enemies within the church, now obviously the documentary is slightly different as well, but it's basically an expansion of this. But you have people that are putting out a higher volume of smaller level of content, and then you have people that are writing books trying to hyper focus on one specific idea. We land a little bit between those two. We want to give you both a broader context of something, but also give you that deeper depth. So we're not going to just be pumping out 10 articles a day, reporting on simply what is happening. No, we want to dive in and do the investigative work. And there really isn't that sort of... Now, I'll say one thing. I do not call myself a journalist because I have more respect for that term than, frankly, most journalists do nowadays. But we're doing that sort of investigative journalist type of deep dive, which is rare in any field nowadays. But Judd, I think that might be a good transition point. Investigative
Yes,
journalism talking about a specific subject. What else did you want to talk about?
I wanted to talk about this. This book right here. This controversial book that so many people are hating on called Shepherds for Sale by Megan Basham. And just let me say this. The book is very revealing considering the author's name because Megan really did come out and bash him.
I have resisted making that pun, so you
Oh,
broke the
know me.
streak.
I can't hold back on that stuff. But first and foremost, I want to tell every Christian worth their salt who's watching this to go buy this book, to go read it, because it contains a lot of great information that you need to know about how pastors and parachurch organizations and people took leftist money to advance the woke social justice movement and also advance leftist political causes through their churches.
Yeah.
This, my friends, is a great book, and Enemies Within the Church does endorse this. We endorse this book and we encourage people to go read it.
Yeah. And one thing, so because this is a point where, you mentioned it's controversial, and this is a point where people attack it. They go, oh, but what about this person? This person didn't take money. In fact, you never mentioned them taking money. Blah, 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 blah. They don't realize. I mean, the whole idea of thesis and defending a thesis is just lost on people nowadays. But she
Correct.
has her idea that she's proving, hey, there are influencers, people with money that are putting the money in to change organizations, to change specific key leaders. What does that do? That has a trickle down effect. Then there's another level of people who have followed those leaders, followed those organizations, and are starting to then unintentionally or intentionally parrot those ideas. That's the whole point of buying people, is to then cause it to go down. It's like, Instagram influencers, TikTok influencers, that kind of stuff. The companies that are paying them crazy amounts of money, they're not paying it for that one person. They're paying so that the next person that they influence repeats the line, goes and buys the product.
Correct. And this is what's happening. So I just want to say this first and foremost. Those that are attacking Megan's book are coming from two different camps. Okay. You have obviously the camp that is defending and going after her for exposing them, for exposing the leftist agenda, exposing the money, and exposing the hypocrisy of the so-called Christian leaders that have endorsed wokeism, same-sex attracted Christianity, environmental agenda. Megan lays it out factually, backs it up factually, and those that are attacking her hate her because she exposed their shenanigans. Okay? The other side that is attacking Megan are what I call the extreme purists that she didn't go after their pet project, their pet obsession. She didn't go after what they wanted her to go after without telling her, hey, you need to go after this. So instead of coming alongside Megan and doing what she did, by the way, it's a bestseller. People are now paying attention to this more so than with Enemies Within the Church. Although I will still say Enemies Within the Church has sold more copies than Megan's book so far. But she took this to a much bigger audience in mainstream.
Yeah.
And the discernment bloggers and the discernment people that hate Megan's book because she wasn't hardcore enough, two things I want to say to them. One, go write your own darn book and put it out there. Go write your own book and put it out there. Go make your own film and put it out there.
It's more work than people. It's
It
more
takes
work than
time, money, and resources to get to this level of exposure and to
yeah.
put together a product that has everything, putting together everything inside of it and getting it out there. It takes time, money, and resources. So if you don't like it, it didn't go hardcore enough, go make your own film, go make your own book.
Yeah. Well, let's
Okay.
mention
And
let's mention thesis and
right.
defending thesis again.
Okay.
Because
Yeah.
what's the point and purpose of the book? Is the point and purpose of the book is her thesis to take people from 0 and take them to 100? No, that's not the purpose of the book.
Correct.
As I see the book, as I see the purpose, because I look at things and I go, well, she could have said this. She could have taken it further. That's a mild
Yes.
approach to this topic. But
And
that's not the point. The point isn't to get everything in one go. I see it as a 90-10 book. She's trying to take it 90% of the way, not 100, with 10% of
right.
the effort. So
But here,
she can cover as much as she did because she's not hitting everything at 100. She's hitting it
right. It's
just
a
below.
book. It's a
Yeah.
book. I mean, Kyle, you were with us when we were making Enemies Within the Church, even and before it was released. I mean, we had a 4-hour cut of our movie. Okay. We had to chop out 2 hours of
And
content.
that's just the recorded content.
Okay. Right. That doesn't include the 100 hours of content that we recorded and whittled it down to a 2-hour movie. Our initial cut was 4 hours. We had to cut out so much good material to make it palatable and even fit on a DVD.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, we'd have to do a 2 DVD set. This, part 1, part 2, and so forth. So at some point in time, you're so ingrained in a project, the main thing has to be the main thing, and all the other stuff you have to cut away to get to the main thing. The main thing.
Yes.
The main emphasis of Shepherds for Sale essentially was to go after the money. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. If she were to name every bad player, every dirty person who is pushing this agenda, this book would be bigger than a dictionary.
Well, and it's not even about hitting every single dollar either.
Right.
It's about
not
proving that there is widespread money coming in, not every source of that money.
So I want to be very open and honest with people is I knew Megan was going to write this book a long time ago. She came to me. She came to people involved in our film for information to help go towards her research and towards this book. Okay. But I want to get one thing very clear so people understand this. There are people we mentioned in our film. Al Mohler. Let me say that again. Al Mohler, the president of Southern Baptist Theological Seminary, and a bigwig in the Southern Baptist Convention named Al Mohler, who's been very instrumental in pushing woke agenda in the SBC, and has not repented of this for some reason. After our film came out, he seems to be more conservative now and less liberal, and he's awful quiet about his Marxism has tenets, and he's more quiet about his views on same-sex attracted Christianity, and he's seemed to be more conservative since our film came out. But one thing I told Megan, and I've told other people this, I said, had we not gone after Al Mohler, there wouldn't be all these other layers of protection within the Christian industry that would have blocked our film. So what happened to us is we lost distribution. We lost media coverage because we went after Al Mohler. Now, why? Why are people protecting that guy? I don't know. I have no idea why. I do know that he throws hundreds of thousands of dollars across the Christian industry to get his, to buy ad time for his radio show, to advertise his ministry, advertise books, whatever you name it. Al Mohler drops hundreds of thousands of dollars in the Christian industry. The Christian industry does not like people to expose other people in the Christian industry because that disrupts money flow.
Yes.
Okay.
People don't realize just how much of things are motivated by business within the
Right,
Christian
right. So,
sphere in the
I-
U.S.
so there's not Christian ministries out there running the books, the publishing, the radio. It is the Christian industry. It's not ministry.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, I'm going to get some person out there. Not all of them are like that. Yes, I get that. Okay, but I'm talking like 80% is the industry, 20% is maybe ministry.
And the size disparity between those two when it comes to just size of company, size of distribution.
Size of company, size of dollars, size of money, and size of influence.
One thing I
yeah.
want to say, if anyone's hearing this and going like, "Hey, but I like Moeller," episode or not episode article is going to be linked in the description. You can go to EWTC News and read it. Going over just it goes over Andy Stanley's comments and Mueller's response, and it shows how it puts Mueller's own words against his critique, and it shows that
Well, look,
Mueller's
if
not
people want
as far away from Stanley as he tries to make it.
Yeah, if people want to understand Al Mohler, it's where's the wind blowing? What direction am I going to take? But it's also not what he says, it's what he does. What he actually does behind the scenes. What he actually has done behind the scenes for the last 15 years is direct opposite to what he says when he goes on his radio show.
The measure of a man is not what he says. The measure of a man is how he acts.
Is how he acts and what he does.
Mm-hmm.
So Enemies Within the Church has spent a lot of resources and exhaustive time going after Al Mohler, and we're not letting him off the hook. Now, Megan did not talk about Al Mohler in her book. One of the reasons is because I suggested and I said to her, don't do it because it will kill your distribution of this book, because there's a lot of people that protect Al Mohler and they won't publish your book. You'll lose distribution from it and people will get upset. So there you have it.
Yeah, he's not Russell Moore. Russell Moore is very easy to talk about. Russell Moore is very easy to go after.
Right.
Al Mohler is someone who is, well, compared to Russell Moore, much more intelligent and strategic. But it is a lot harder to easily, verifiably prove some of the issues that he has. You have to dig deeper. The problem is people don't want to do the dig deeper. They just want to see the surface level and go, that's enough for me. I saw some surface level good stuff, and that means that this person is all good. Oh, and if you're coming after him, you're saying he's all bad. That's not what we're saying at all. Correct. Things about Mohler recently that I go, I like that he said that. I like that he did that. But why does he contradict it in these other places?
Correct. But this is why you got to hold his feet to the fire. But Megan is being attacked by the purists because she didn't go after Al Mohler in her book. Well, she didn't really need to. She really didn't need to, because Enemies Within the Church did the heavy lifting on that a long time ago. We did the heavy lifting on that. And then people who read her book can come watch our movie. Then they can make their own connections, because Enemies Within the Church went a little farther because we called it Enemies Within the Church. And we didn't differentiate between obvious leftists and people pretending to be conservative. You know, we nothing is sacred for us. If we found it, we went after it.
Yeah.
And we documented it. But the thing is that this paves the way for people to come to our movie, to come get more information, and to go to the other discernment bloggers. And if they want to dig deeper, they can find more information. But I am not here to hate on someone's success. I am happy for Megan. I am happy that more people are aware of what's happening, because the more people that are aware, then we can finally do something about it.
Yeah,
more people can
start actually having the conversations.
Yes,
having the conversations, getting people to just be willing to talk about different things is been the biggest challenge. People, again, when it comes to like Al Mohler, and not that we're just using him as a punching bag, but it's such a hard thing to even have the conversation, because people don't even want to have the categories of issues. They don't want to have a category of same-sex attraction, quote, same-sex attraction is a problem within evangelicalism.
Right.
or the way that we're handling the way that we're handling, quote, race relations, racial reconciliation. Well, those things aren't actually a widespread problem. Or these are just people that are talking a little bit off.
Correct.
Megan's showing, hey, there are people that are intentionally trying to get Christians to talk using these categories, to talk
Yes.
using these terms.
And being paid to do so. We exposed a portion of the money and enemies within the church, but this book goes beyond what enemies within the church did as far as tracking down money. I mean, there are things I learned in this book. It didn't surprise me by any way, but I was like, oh, wow, that's really interesting.
Yeah. Hey, there's the evidence. Not
Yeah,
surprised by it, but there's
more
the evidence. I could actually see it now.
So the way I look at Shepherds for Sale, again, Shepherds for Sale, done by Megan Basham, who bashes the left. God bless her. I see this book as vindication for our film and vindication for everything that you and I have gone through the last several years, Kyle. This is just more vindication because people are going, okay, and it's blatantly obvious now. People are going into their churches. They are seeing stuff that doesn't sound right. It doesn't look right. Where is this coming from? Why is this happening? Well, here's another book with answers. That's Shepherds for Sale by Megan Basham. Go buy the book. So even the purists who hate this book have come out and attacked me and attacked enemies within the church for supporting Megan's book. Which I don't understand because seriously, enemies within the church is the only group that has done more investigating, heavy lifting, spent so much resources going after this stuff and letting it happen. And I mean, and God bless the discernment bloggers that still hate us and attack us. They do good work, but you know what? They do not offer Christian charity to our allies and those that have come alongside us in this fight. And when someone's waking up to this and they're new and they're going, oh, wow, I can't believe this is happening. I can't believe this is happening. You know, what's going on here? These purists will come and attack them for not realizing it sooner.
That happened to me. That happened to me when, I made my video about the issues at the North American Mission Board. I got attacked by, I'm not going to mention who, but I got attacked by someone because they went, oh, I've been talking about this for years. I've been pointing out the problems. You're wrong for ever even having been connected with the North American Mission Board.
Right. And what I'm saying, well, yeah.
So you don't want me to say anything?
These people do not have charity. They do not have charity or grace for those that are new to the information, but they also don't have charity and grace for others that have entered the fight and that are successful in this fight. And it's very disappointing because I don't believe in shooting allies in the foot. I don't believe in knocking them down and throwing grenades at them if they get something wrong or somebody didn't say the right thing about their pet project. That's not what this is about. We need to have unity as a front if we're going to fight the social justice movement. We're going to fight this disease that is infecting our churches and parachurch organizations. And then the other thing is, and I want to get this off my chest, is that, look, why you, Kyle? Why me? Why guys like us that have somehow gotten in this war and fought it? When the men and the people that are in power in these organizations fail to fight this and do the right thing with it from within their own organizations. They have the money, the power, and the influence to stop this, but they don't. That and then they come in, and then they come after us for not going after a pet project and doing this. It's just ridiculous. Now I want to go after the other side that's attacking Megan. Okay, I'm going to drop a name here. I'm going to go after Neil Shenvey. Mr. Neil Shenvey. a lot of people are starting to use his critique of Megan's book as the official review and critique of Megan's book. Now, I just want to say this. If you have half a brain, you will not listen to Neil Shenvi. You will not listen to his critiques because Neil Shenvi is dishonest. He's either dishonest or willfully stupid when he's doing his critiques and reviews, especially on those people that are exposing the woke and the social justice movements. All right, let's get some facts about Neil Shenvi down real fast. Neil Shenvi goes to J.D. Greer's church. J.D. Greer is one of the biggest proponents of social justice, same-sex attracted Christianity nonsense in the Southern Baptist Convention. And he was the president of the Southern Baptist Convention as well. Neil Shenvi does not have an unbiased opinion here.
Yeah. Well, and I want to put something out there. Pretty much no one has an unbiased opinion when it comes to this because of the web of connections with everything. The point of pointing that out with Neil, you can accept that. You can accept that people have connections to some degree. But the type of biasing of, hey, I am directly connected and associated with a major figure that was critiqued here, and I'm trying to play the game of, well, that doesn't matter. That's a problem. That's a problem. It does bias you, and if you're not, I mean, I could go on a whole rabbit trail about this, but basically, I used to do adoption counselors at Humane Society, and I was the lead, so I was training other counselors, and it's a liberal nightmare zone. And I was telling people training, like, hey, if you follow some of this nonsense advice of don't judge people, you're biasing yourself.
Correct.
You're biasing yourself more. What you need to do is acknowledge the fact that saying, hey, I judged this person. Here's my judgment. I'm going to now put this on a shelf so I can be honest about it and check myself to see if I'm acting on my bias or acting on the truth. That is not the way that Neil is handling this. He's trying to make it that it doesn't matter, and then very specifically defending JD. It's problematic.
Well, it's very problematic, but if you want to get just to the bottom of Neil Shenvi, let's just call it out for what it is, okay? Neil Shenvi never acknowledges the main topic or argument at hand, okay? He never acknowledges the main topic or argument at hand, okay? So, for instance, I give the reference and people said, oh, this is outlandish, but this is a conversation with Neil Shenvi, okay? Let's just say I read Mein Kampf, and then I read further speeches and writings of Hitler. And I said, wow, Hitler is a very, very bad guy, and he was a Nazi. According to Neil, he would say that I was not treating Hitler fairly enough and treating him with the golden rule in regards to his writings and what he actually said. And that it's unchristian of me to attribute intentions to his writings and his speeches. That is the flawed, insane logic that he applies to J.D. Greer and everybody else that is critiqued in Megan's book and also in Enemies Within the Church. If you want to get to the root of it, Neil prides himself at straining at gnats.
Yeah. He's someone that he's trying to argue against the trees in the midst of a forest.
Correct. Right.
It doesn't matter if you find one tree and you look at it and you go, hey, look, that tree has some dead branches on it. That doesn't mean the entire forest is dead. Doesn't even mean that single tree is dead. Now, I'll be overly generous. I'm just gonna say that I'm gonna be overly generous.
No. I'm gonna stop you there. Let's quit being generous with this guy because he is not generous with those that are speaking truth.
I'm being overly generous in making
All
this
right.
point
All right.
to make it clearer. I have seen things that he has said that I go, yes, you're correct that she got that specific word wrong. She should have used this other word. Does that even destroy the sentence? Now, to clarify even further, atheists attack the Bible that same exact way. They go, hey, look, here's this translation error in this sentence. And people look at it and go, okay, yeah, we do have two different manuscripts that have two different words. There is a debate there. But the word doesn't change the sentence. The difference between he went to a pond versus he went to the pond doesn't change the sentence.
Right, and it doesn't change the context of what's going on. So people think, oh, Neil is so smart and he's so nuanced and his analysis is so educational and great. But really, at the end of the day, he's so stupid he misses the main point and focuses on that right there and distracts people from the main point. Neil is nothing more than a distraction, and I would go as far as to say he's controlled opposition. True controlled opposition, because every time something hard hitting comes out about the left or somebody in Christian circles in regards to critical race theory or social justice, he rushes to their nuanced defense and always punches right.
Well, that's
and lays cover for the left.
Yeah.
So you want to get to the bottom of Neil Shenvi? That is who he is, and that is what he does. Look no further than his Twitter threads with Megan Basham right now, and look at his Twitter threads with John Harris. I mean, I don't know how much more you can get it unless you are a person looking for an excuse to turn a blind eye to what's really happening.
Well, and I would definitely, I can get, if you have no context for what's going on and you just read some of Shenvi's reviews, you're going to go, okay, I have questions now. But what do we do when we have questions? What do we do? What do we do that Shenvi's not doing? What do we do that he's accusing Megan of not doing? It's go to the source. And in this case, if Shenvi's opened up questions but hasn't closed, because that's really all he's doing. He's we've talked about poke holeism. If I can poke enough holes, then that ruins it. No. Go to the source. Say, hey, I have questions now, but it hasn't raised to the level of true issues. He hasn't proven. Proof is a different level. Go read the book and compare it to what Shenvi's written. Go read the book and compare it to what Shenvi's written. If it aligns, if you read the book and say, hey, now this has merit, you've proved something. If you read it and you go, hey, here's the content, and his review missed the content, missed the context. Hey, Shenvi took her out of context, something he's accusing her of doing. Then it's disproven. His whole argumentation essentially relies on you not verifying it by looking at the whole thing. It's the same exact thing.
Correct.
That, when we looked, we didn't look at Gavin Ortland's actual issues because other people were doing that. We looked at other parts, but Gavin was doing the same exact thing. He was trying to say, hey, here are little teeny bits, and if you put those bits together right, there's a problem. But go read I've read that chapter. It doesn't line up with Gavin's description. It doesn't.
Right.
Compare the source to the critique. You have to. That's why that's why anybody's within the church, we give you sources.
Hey, I was just to say this, after watching this whole debacle go down, I think, Gavin Ortland is like the Tom Green of apologetics.
Explain this one. I'm curious to hear this thought more developed.
Tom Green, am I cool yet? Am I funny yet? Am I cool yet? What great lengths am I going to go to kiss to kiss the rear end of some strange liberal pet topic to be accepted and liked by people. Like, that's Gavin Ortland.
See, I want to say that's an uncharitable description, but unfortunately I can't, because I've looked
No,
enough at Gavin. You want to talk about.
he's a Tom Green of apologetics.
Well, you
But
want, Judd,
and
I want to say this
go
because
ahead.
I have you on, so we can talk about this. We went after some of the money in Enemies Within the Church.
Yes.
What's the big organization we brought up that is pumping money in?
Which one? Kern Family Foundation?
Yep. Guess who has spoke at Kern's Oikonomia Network events? Who's been paid by them to speak?
Gavin Ortland.
Gavin Ortland. So
Yes.
if you want to talk about accepting money to promote certain ideas, there is actually an argument there that Gavin has done that. Now, obviously, we'd have to actually go in. Megan
didn't go that far in with that, but yes,
yeah,
the Kern Family Foundation, Oikonomia Network, all funding leftist activities in universities and parachurch organizations and seminaries. Gavin has been a wonderful recipient of Kern money as well. So people rushing to Gavin's defense, that's who you're defending. You're defending a guy that's taking bad money that has advanced the social justice CRT movement in our churches and seminaries for a long time now. Guys, who are you defending? Are you defending Megan, who laid it all on the line to tell the truth, or are you going to defend an enemy within the church? Stop it. Stop it, please.
Again, we have sources to verify things. We give them to you. We show what's going on.
Yes.
Megan, plenty of sources. If you really have a question, and frankly, I get mad at both sides for not verifying and fact-checking things. Go do it. Fact-check us. We give you the sources so you can go look at it.
Well, that's the thing. With everything we do, and that's when we put out research, we put out our sources. We tell you exactly where we found stuff, and we did it with Enemies Within the Church. We had lawyers go through our movie with a fine-tooth comb to make sure we were on the level, and they found no fault whatsoever. They said everything is perfectly legal with what you're doing. You're untouchable.
Yeah, and there's a document on EWTC News, master notes and bibliography for the film. You can go. Now, it's not every single detail down to the smallest level, but it shows you the major claims we make. There's dozens and dozens and dozens of claims there with their citations. Hey, this is where you can go to verify what we were saying.
Correct. And I want to come back and I want to be clear on one thing, is that all the enemies we name in our movie, all the people that we talk about on our website, at the end of the day, we want them to repent and come back to Christ and come back to orthodoxy.
Amen.
We want them to stop the heresy, and we want them to be reconciled with God.
Amen.
But at the same time, until they do that, they are enemies within the church that are purposefully leading people away from Christ and away from truth. They need to be marked. They need to be named. And they need to, but like I said, at the end of the day, they need to repent and come to reconciliation with God. But the thing is, and the thing that frustrates me the most, and this is another thing I want to say that I haven't said yet, is that everyone on the left who is attacking Megan's book refuses to man up and own their own positions and own their own words.
Yeah. Well,
like Gavin Ortland did a whole thing about, environmentalism. And he's like, well, I didn't say that. And he's combating it. Dude, you dedicated podcasts to environmentalism. JD Greer, you dedicated lots of stuff to racial justice, social justice, pushing all these things. You don't own your own words. You don't own what you said. None of these guys are owning up to what they actually said and did.
Boy, and when they come out with something, they're like, hey, I said this thing. It's always a cop-out answer of like, oh, well, that was overstated, or that was
Right. That was
I was
overstated. It was out of
I'm sorry
context.
that you took it wrong. I could have said it better.
Yeah. Yeah, you misunderstood me. You did it. It's like, no,
What is truth anymore?
let your yes be your yes and your no be your no.
Amen.
And this is what they are not doing. And Megan took a good shot at him. She bashed him, and she has done a great service through her book, and it's vindication for enemies within the church and the work that we are continuing to do. So again, I'm going to tell everybody, Shepherds for Sale by Megan Basham. Go buy it. And then also go support enemies within the church. Go support Kyle. Go to the Patreon. Give a little bit of funds to help out our efforts here. It's been a while since the movie's out. We're doing this out of love. We're doing this out of love and concern, but we
don't
do
have big donors behind here.
Right.
Just
we don't have any
pumping
big donors
money to
behind us.
Yeah, we're funded by the film. We're funded by individual small donations. That's the only way that this keeps going. It's not, we don't have those big funders.
Well, the thing is, we're telling the truth. So we don't get Kern Foundation money. We don't get money from the left. We don't get money from, Soros, because we actually care about the truth and we care about the gospel. So we don't get money from bad organizations. So just folks, if you can spare a little bit, help Kyle out, help out this project. It means a lot to me, and it continues to help us fight this war. But letting you know, we're bringing everything back together. The website, EWTCnews.com, enemieswithinthechurch.com will automatically reroute to EWTC News. So if you still use the same website, it'll just go to EWTC News, where everything will be in one spot, one shop. And we're going to continue putting out content and just keep shedding light into this darkness. So,
amen.
Thanks for having me on, Kyle. I appreciate it.
It's always fun to have you on. It turns into quite the event of a conversation. So, yeah, as we wrap up, I just want to encourage people, go buy the book. You've heard a lot of claims from people. You've heard a lot of claims from us. Go buy the book. It's worth the purchase to verify the information. It's worth the purchase to have that and look into the sources, to look into the information, to see, is this correct? Is this not correct? That's the point of a book like this, is not to tell you what to believe. It's to show you the information. It's to be a guide through the information. It's to help you decipher, help you do the research. It's a tool for you. It's not the be-all, end-all. It's being attacked like it's the be-all, end-all. It's not. It's the beginning of an investigative journey that makes it palatable and easy for you to consume, compared to having to do the hundreds of hours of research that Megan did. That's the point of investigative journalism, is to do the investigation for you, but then give you the sources. You can go verify. So I encourage you to go get the book. I encourage you, continue to support Enemies Within the Church. We're really trying to make things valuable, but also give us feedback. Give us feedback. Give us feedback of what would be useful. What has been useful? What did you like about the film or some of the other projects? What do you think could be better? What are the resources that would be valuable for you to have? We want to make this effective, not just to be a resource, but to be an effective resource. So give us that feedback so we can better communicate the truth to you, give you better resources. We want to be useful, so help us in that endeavor. But from Enemies Within the Church, God bless you, and don't go woke.